to door, from Sinai to our times. In case you're wondering and perhaps hesitating and saying, everything? These come from Sinai. This morning, if you benched and you said, Hazon es ha'olam kuloi, that was written actually today. Birchas Hamon, Tes Zayin Iyah, by Moshe Rabbeinu, from Sinai. Hazon es ha'olam kuloi. Mitzvah Hashem, when each of you ladies walks to the chuppah, and he turns around and says, Harei mekudeshes li Sinai. Ksuba not, Ksuba came later, Reb Shimon ben Shetach, of the whole concept of Asher Kidishonu b'mitzvah Sovet Tzivonu al Haroyos v'hitu lanu es harusos al nidei chuppah v'kiddushin, Sinai. Your light, your neiros, Sinai. You see how precious it is. It has to be passed on in a perfect state to the next generation. Let me give you some examples of what we're talking about. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, as you know, Moshe kibel Torah mi Sinai Misoil Yeshua, Yeshua Zekenim, Neviim, Le'anshei Knesset HaGdolah. V'heim omru. 1 minute. All of Pirkei Avos talks about ethics. Ani le'doidi v'doidi li, al shlosha dvorim ha'olam oimeid. 1 minute. What happened to Pesach? What happened to Yom Kippur? What happened to Dinim of Sukkos? Why doesn't it say that in Pirkei Avos? Why does Pirkei Avos only talk about aspects of behavior, philosophy, ethics, doctrine? What happened to everything else? Says the Baal Tanura, no, everybody knows. Shabbos, Yom Kippur, Pesach, everybody knows that came from Sinai. There's no doubt that Shabbos and Yom, everything is from Sinai. But what we're in doubt about, which people don't know, did you know that Im Ein Anili Mili comes from Sinai? Are you aware that Asei L'cha Rav U'Kenei L'cha Chover comes from Sinai? That's the Chidush here. That you would have thought, well, Hillel and Shammai and all the HaBonim and Yossi ben Yoezer and all the Tanoim in Pirkei Avos, no, they did not make it up. All those aspects came from Sinai as well. And that's the point. When we turn around and say, all the beautiful Mamorim in Pirkei Avos, they're all from Sinai. I was thinking, perhaps, of a bracket. Let's include everything. Everything we can possibly include in it. You'll perhaps say a foolish example. I think the point will get across. It goes from gefilte fish to Shema Yisrael. It's that wide. It's enormous. Food. Food is essential in Chinuch. A child should know this is called Shabbos food. A child should realize this is called Tisha B'Av food, lo aleinu. Suda Mafsekes. Child has to realize this is Yom Tov. Food on Shabbos is critical. All you ladies in Mitzvah Hashem, when you have children, it's critical the child should feel it's Shabbos, it's special. Gefilte fish is Shabbos. And it goes until Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu. Kabbalas Oil Malchus Shamayim, which of course comes from Sinai. The bracket is that wide. It includes all these points. I'll give you another example. I'm trying to take examples which you might have thought it's not really from Sinai, but listen to this one. Rav Hirsch in the Chumash explains that each of the children of Noach are represented by their music in their name. Meaning, Cham are black people. If you know a little bit about music, the music of black people is Cham. It's very hot. They clap their hands and wave around and jump up and down. So Rav Hirsch, it's Cham. They are black people. Our music is Cham. It's hot. Who's Yofes? Yofes is Europe. Schubert, Beethoven, Mozart. Their music is Yafeh. Who is Shem? Klal Yisrael. Jewish music might be hot and might be beautiful, but it's supposed to be with a purpose. Shame is a tachlis. A name means a purpose. That's why, of course, why on earth did they have music in the Beis HaMikdash with the Leviim? What's it for? Background music? No way. The reason why they had music in the Beis HaMikdash is because it's supposed to lift you in dargas of Kedusha. Famous commentary of the Pas HaShulchan and the Hakdama of the Vilna Gaon when he finished writing Shir HaShirim. So the Vilna Gaon explained how music is supposed to lift a person up, Shir HaShirim. Halavai, can you imagine, ladies, if we knew the music for each Prokim in Tehillim? Lamatzech al Hagitis, Lamatzech al Shushanim, Mizmor La'osaf, they all had different music to them. It took Le'avim 5 years to train. It took a long time to know the music of each one. Unfortunately, we don't have them. Some of them we do have. The Duchening of Kohanim. Alai, lai, 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 la, lai, 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 lai. That comes from the Beis HaMikdash, they say. That's some tunes we have, perhaps, but we're lost. It's all from Sinai. The music that we have is all in the Masoires. Give you another example. What's included in the heirloom? Unfortunately, the days that we're going through now are supposed to have been days of Chol HaMoed. The Ramban in Parshas Emor explained, last week's Parsha, that first day's Yom Tov should have been Pesach. Last day's Yom Tov are Shavuos. And the 7 weeks in between are supposed to be days of Chol HaMoed. Because as we know, of course, when Moshe Rabbeinu was at the snare, he turned around and asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu an incredible question. This, V'chi oitzi es b'nei Yisrael miMitzrayim, shall I take them out? What sort of question was that? First question was, Mi ani she'oitzi es b'nei Yisrael. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, don't worry, I'll be with you. What's the second question? V'chi oitzi? Well, of course be toitzi. Of course take them out. What was Moshe Rabbeinu asking here? Of course you take them out. No. Says Rashi, Dover Godol Yeshli al Haitzah Azu. I once heard from Reb Shmuel Birnbaum, the Rosh Hashiva of the Mir, Zecher Tzadik Livrach, the Mir in Flatbush. He once explained what Moshe Rabbeinu was saying was something like this: we don't need another airline, we don't need another flag, we don't need another passport, we don't need another soccer team. So what's the purpose of taking them out? Just to take them out and leave them over the border? What's the point? Said HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Dover Godol Torah. And therefore, first day's Yom Tov of Pesach, last day's Yom Tov of Shavuos, and the days in between are supposed to have been Chol HaMoed, but they're not. The reason is because of an enormous tragedy. It's a tragedy which is almost incomprehensible. 24,000 Talmidim all died between Pesach and Shavuos. Shelo noagu kovod zeh bozeh. Says the Gemara in Yevamos Daf Samach Beis, because they never acted with kovod. It's an unbelievably difficult Gemara. The Gemara says, "V'holam haya shomein." The world was desolate. There was no Torah. This was Moshe, Nevi'im, Zkenim, Rebbe Akiva, and wipeout. Nothing left. Just Rebbe Akiva. All the 24,000 died. Then he went down to the south and started again. But what happened here? This isn't Avodah Zorah. This wasn't Gila Arayas. This wasn't Shvichas Domim. No, because they weren't, if we can say such a thing, it's extremely difficult because they were all outstanding Talmidei Chachomim, but there was something missing in the Masoires. They didn't pick up this point of V'yohavta l'reacha kamoicha ze klal godel b'Torah. They were outstanding Talmidei Chachomim, but shelo nagu kovod ze b'zeh. It's as if the Masoires would have been pogum, blemished, if there's no kovod. The real Masoires of Torah is kovod ha-Torah, kovod shamayim, kovod ha-brios, kibud avoreim, kovod. Kovod is the main measuring scale of everything ruchnius. Gashmius is measured by money. Ruchnius is measured by kovod. If you don't have kovod, then you're missing the key foundation, and that is in the Masoires. Kovod ha-Torah. It's enormous, the Masoros. According to what we understand by Reb Shmuel Greineman, it's called the Kav Hazov. It goes right through the Doros, and it has to pass on, midor ledor ledor. Each door has to pick up the importance of food and Jewish food. Not just kosher food, but the taste of food. That's in the Masoros for a child. What type of food, the chashivas of sitting and eating together. A child has to pick up, unfortunately, how can they make nowadays? What does it mean, Jewish music, and how music can lift you? A child has to pick up the points about midas and covered, and all these are in the Masoros. I took a few examples. It's interesting, Rav Hirsch writes in the Siddur, when a woman says the bracha, she'asani kirtzainai, says Rav Hirsch, a woman is saying, other Mephoshim say differently, Rav Hirsch says that a woman is saying that I am made in this role like Hashem Ratza, who Ratza, that I will be a mechanechet. I will pass it on to my children. I will give over these points. I will teach my child brachas. I will teach my child midas. And that's the word kirtzainai, to pass it on. That Moshe explained that's the meaning why women were told first. Koisoim ala beis Yaakov, v'saged b'nei Israel. A woman is first. She has the child for the first 5, 6, 7 years, however many years, when the child is small. But then it moves on to the parents, to the father, to the teachers. But the Masoros is the mother must give this over. And that's what it says Rav Hirsch. That's the meaning of kirtzainai, that I will pass it on. There are other meanings, but that's how Rav Hirsch says it. Ad kan, the Kav Hazov. Let's move on. The second point I'd like to bring out in Chinuch is, what are you up against? What's the challenges? All of you ladies, in Mitz Hashem, you'll have children, you'll have mishpachas. That was a bracha. You can say amen to my bracha. What are you up against? What's the challenge in Chinuch? I would like to suggest a moshel. I thought it out, but I think it works. Imagine a coastal village by the sea. Small, quiet village, 100 families by the sea. One night, at 3 o'clock in the morning, the Coast Guard sounds the alarm. Wakes up the whole village and screams out on the alarm, every single person, get up, climb up on the roof. We're expecting a tidal wave. There's no possible way you can survive. Wake up and get up. And all the families wake up and they climb up in their pajamas on the roof and they stand up. He said, climb up, and he's screaming at them. We have about 10 minutes to go. Get up, climb up. Now, one smart guy might turn around and say, well, I'll close the door tight. Close the door tight. Won't help. Another one might turn around and say, I'll go around the corner. Around the corner won't help. To climb up. What's going on in the main street where you come from? Or downtown, wherever you come from? It's a tidal wave. It's a tidal wave of secularism, where the most important things in life are money, looks, prestige, power, cosmetics, perfumes, movies, World Series, the whole gamut, plus the whole ethos of Greek culture, of sport, and how you look, the outside, the glamour. It's a tidal wave. And it's impossible to climb away from it. You can't avoid it. Don't imagine you can slam the door and keep the child inside the house. Of course you can't. Child goes out. Child will see. It's impossible. It's not shaykh to maintain, to think that you're living in a world of kedusha. The world outside is not like that. I used to live in Hanof. Now I live in Bet Shemesh, but when we lived in Hanof, a beautiful family came to live in my building from Los Angeles for a year. And they sent their children to the schools in Yerushalayim. Children were very gifted. Came in and went into the schools, and they did very well. And the whole year they lived in our area, in Hanof, on Agassi I lived. And after the year they went back, and within about 3 or 4 days, the mother called up my wife, and she was in tears. She said, Mamash, I'm a broken lady. Why? She said, because we came out at the airport at Lax, of Los Angeles. We came out, and my son just stood there staring at this billboard, which he'd never seen such a thing for a year. This billboard just blew his mind. He stood staring at it. He said, what have I done here? I tried to encourage my child Kedusha and sneers. And you see this billboard, and it's impossible. It's a tidal wave. You can't imagine you can close the kitchen door and nothing will happen. Child goes out. The only possible way you can solve the problem is lift the child up as high as he can, figuratively, on the roof. Give him standards of Kedusha. We'll talk about it in a second. But the idea is that he must appreciate that I'm a little bit like Yosef in Mitzrayim. I have my standards, and even though a lady can come along to me and tempt me and entice me, I have standards. That's what Yaakov gave to Yosef. Says the Alter von Kelm, that's why Yosef could survive with his Kedusha in Mitzrayim. Because Avim Azot, if we can say such a thing, he was breathing an oxygen mask of his father's Kedusha. He had something to live by. He had standards of brochas, of Shabbos, of Shmiras Haloshen, of Chesed, and these all lift the child up. So he sees that he's not a goy. He has a roimamus. It's not a pride. It's a pride of being Jewish. It's a pride of Torah. It's not an arrogance. It's an ability. It's an aristocracy. It's what we mean when we say Mamleches Kohanim v'Goy Kadosh. The Netziv explains the words Mamleches, but we're not all Kohanim. Mamleches Kohanim, we're not all Kohanim. Says the Netziv, no, the wording is, it refers to Bein Adam Lachaveiroi, and the word Kohen in that context, says the Netziv, means B'nei Efrat, which means in Hebrew, in English, an Hebrew term of cultured, refined people, Bein Adam Lachaveiroi. That's B'nei Efrat. Goy Kadosh is Bein Adam Lamokaim. Segula. That's what the child has to feel. You have to lift him up on the roof. And if he doesn't have those standards, then he'll just get caught up in the tidal wave. Several years ago, I was asked by the Mendel Weinbach, Zecher Tzaddik Livrocha, from Or Sameach, to run a program for very gifted boys from England. As you've discovered, I'm from England, no? My English accents. From England, boys who will definitely go to university, Oxford and Cambridge, gifted boys, but they'll only be there for 1 year. It didn't work out in the end. The program, for some reason, financial reasons, didn't work out. But the idea was put together. And this is what he said to me. What I'd like to share with you is what Mendel said to me. He said as follows: you'll give these boys, during the day, a most wonderful experience in Torah. No question they'll enjoy the thrill of learning of a Chaim, they'll love the Torah, no question. Intellectually stimulating Torah, the boys will love it. They'll love a shiur on Mishnah Berurah and Mishnayos and philosophy. You'll learn with them Ramcha. And he told me, this is what you'll do, and they'll love it. But you have one problem, and we can't solve this problem. They're not part of the yeshiva system, and they're only here for a year. So what will happen is, and we know it, and we can't solve this problem, because we can't act on it. They'll go at night into the bedroom, close the door, open up the laptop, and they'll basically be on 42nd Street. So what are you going to do? You can't take the laptop away from them, but that's the problem. You'll give them all that you can, but then it's a little bit like what Pinsky once said, Zecher Tzaddik Livrocha. It used to be that the Rishus HaYochid was the Rishus HaYochid, and the Rishus HaRabim is the Rishus HaRabim. No more. The whole Rishus HaRabim has come into the Rishus HaYochid, and that's the problem with the internet and the whole thing. It's right inside the room, in the bedroom, on the laptop. And that is your problem. That's the tidal wave. So intellectually they might be stimulated, but you have a problem, because we can't take the laptop away from them. How can we? They're not part of the system. We could insist, but you get the problem. If that boy wasn't given an oxygen mask on the roof, it's the tidal wave. Another pioneer in Chinuch, I was personally connected with him, and Adam Godel Ma'oid was Rav Simcha Wasserman, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, the son of Rav Yohonoson. I lived in Mattersdorf for 10 years. He was my neighbor in Mattersdorf, and he, the son of Rav Yohonoson. I don't know of many people in life who sat closely next to the Chofetz Chaim, was a Talmid of Reb Baruch Ber and Rav Yerucham, and saw the streets of Los Angeles and Detroit and Strasbourg. He was mamash a bridge. He saw that world, and he knew what was going on in that world. He saw it all. Rav Simcha once said, it's really all in a Beis Halevi, but when the Pasuk says, Hatzileni no miyad ochi miyad Esav, when Yaakov was meeting Esav, and he cried out and said, save me from my brother Esav, my brother, save me from Esav. Said Reb Simcha, the goy used to be a poritz, which means a bully, and you keep away, like you do with an Arab. You keep away. But now he's become your buddy, and you have a problem, because he puts his arm around you and takes you for a drink and takes you to the baseball game, and he's your friend in college or at work or on the train. He's your buddy. And that's where the whole problem comes in. And he'll pull you in a way, it's a problem. He needs to be up on the roof. He needs higher standards. There is, there's a Rav in Mattersdorf called Rav Gantz. Rabbi Saul Gantz once asked Rav Shach a wonderful question. I wish I would have asked this question. It's a super question. He asked the Rav Shach, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, the following question. What's the greatest test of this generation? Beautiful question. What's the Nisayon Hador? And we're talking about parents with Chinuch. Said Rav Shach, and this old man who lived, you would say, in this ivory tower in Ponevezh, knew exactly what was going on in Manhattan and Chicago. He knew exactly what his problem was in Chinuch. Said Rav Shach to Rav Gantz, this is the problem. The nisayon of the door is that a child has to have a kef. You know what a kef is? A kef is a good time. Kef is like a delight. From a dover ruchni and not a dover gashmi. It's bullseye, that is. That is perfect understanding of the door. That a child should have a kef from learning something, or doing a mitzvah, or doing a chesed, or davening, like he does from a new video, or a new suit, or a new pair of shoes, or a vacation. That kef should be in a dover ruchni. That's everything. That's the challenge. That's the tidal wave, because the child is overwhelmed. He sees what's going on. He sees the cameras. He sees the telephones. He sees the cars. He sees the clothing. He sees the billboards. He sees everything. There's the tidal wave, and this child has to be lifted up. I'm going to show you in a minute how to lift him up. But that's the challenge. That's what you're up against. It's the challenge of the door. Part 3. Part 1 is the Kavazov. Part 2 is what's the challenge. And perhaps we can now give a remedy. How do you do it? How do you become successful as a parent? I would like to suggest the following formula. And it's right there in front of you this morning. Right in front of your eyes. And if you don't catch it, you can say these words every day of your life, from 3 till 120, but never catch the point. Because in these words lie the whole, not just the testimony of a Jew, but lies the whole undercurrent of what the home should be, especially in regarding Chinuch. Here's the first line. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That line is a line of commitment to Shema. Does not mean, Rashi says Shema means lekabel. Lekabel, to accept upon yourself. Hashem, says the Mishnah Berurah, Chofetz Chaim says that is Hoya Hoyve V'Yehiyeh Adon HaKol. Elokeinu, the manufacturer, the supervisor, Kol HaKoiches, and he uses all the koiches, is one. That is a statement of full belief. Now, we're supposed to understand, you can't be yotze with that mitzvah unless you fully understand what you're saying. To know what that words were. There is one, there's no other. I believe in that, I'm a Jew, and that is my heirloom of Kedusha. I believe that there is one God, and he is not Elokim, but Elokeinu. Elokeinu, says the Vilna Gaon, means it is personal. It doesn't say, well, Hashem Elokim, Hashem Elokeinu. We have a relationship with him. That is a testimony of belief. Now, you might say that a theological professor, or even a priest, I don't know, certainly the Arabs could agree with that line. The Arabs believe in one God. So what makes me a Jew because of that one line? There are many religions who believe in one God. And they'll say he's also personal to me and intimate. No. The next line, let's miss out Baruch Shem, Shaila Yaakov Avinu, B'Shas Misa. Let's leave that out a second. That's not in the Torah. Next line has a Vav beginning. Now, the Vav is telling you that Hashem Echad Ve'ohavto. It's not enough to have this knowledge in your mind. You must love him. You must be intimately connected with him. Ve'ohavto es Hashem Elokecho. Now that love is more than just an awareness. It's b'kol halev. That means not half the leiv, all the leiv. Nafshecha means, Rashi says, until even giving up your life, but you don't have to go that far. Any aspect of Mesiras Nefesh, of self-sacrifice, is b'chol nafshecha. Any sacrifice. You buy kosher food instead of trefa food. It's more expensive. That's b'chol nafshecha. You leave earlier on Friday if you're working somewhere, just to make sure you don't lose Chalol Shabbos. You might lose money from it. That's b'chol nafshecha. You spend time with a parent when you could go out and have a great time on the town. But you spend time with a parent because there's kibud avoreim. That's b'chol nafshecha. Any self-sacrifice, any sacrifice is b'chol nafshecha. B'chol noidecha, two perushim in Rashi, with all your money, with any hashgacha that you have, anything that comes your way. That's a personal relationship. That's number 2 in the code. Line 3. It's not enough just to have ahava. You need something more than that. There are many Jews who lie back in an armchair and turn around and say, I love Hashem. I love Purim. I love Simchas Torah. And I love gefilte fish. I love. That's not what it's all about. Ahavas Hashem must go. There's a vav at the beginning of the next line. V'hoyu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alavavecha. That ahava has to be downgraded into Torah. Hadvarim ha'ele means Torah. So emuna, ahavas Hashem, ahavas haTorah. You must use that ahava into Torah. Hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alavavecha. You must love Torah. You must be involved. Al-levavecha. Interesting, no? Torah is a knowledge. So maybe it should have said, Asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al machshaveisecha, al moichecha. Why does it say al-levavecha? Because we're not interested in Torah in creating intellectual wizards who know every single halach in Shulchan Aruch. We're interested in creating a Talmud Chacham which includes the practice with a modesty, with a whole package of midos. That's on the lave, not just in their mind. Famous line of Aristotle, no? Don't do what I tell you. Do what I tell you, not what I do. I do what I want to do. Zelo kacha. Alavavecha means that every aspect of Torah must be personal. It's on the lave, on the lave. Ladies, how often have you said those words? But look carefully. The next line is the sole source in all of the Torah for Chinuch Bonim. No other pasuk. He gathered Olavincha somewhere else, something's Pesach. Oh, but the source of Chinuch Bonim is the next line. V'shinantom levonecha v'dibarto bom. Why is it there? Perhaps we can suggest the following. In order to get the point over, v'shinantom, we'll talk about what that means in a minute, you need 3 qualifications. The first is Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. The second is Avas Hashem. The third is Avas HaTorah. Now go ahead. You'll be a wonderful mother. You might not have arrived. None of us have arrived, really. We're all involved in work in progress. We didn't arrive. We're still working on Emunah. We're still working on Avas Hashem. But that's the degree. That's the qualification. You don't need to go to university and study education. You might think to yourself quietly that your mother did an awful job with you. She didn't bring me up very well. You might think that. It doesn't matter. It's got nothing to do with it. The criteria are those 3 lines. Emunah, fully understanding the first line. The second line, Ahavas Hashem. The third line, now, Gesundheit, B'shinantom Nuvanecha V'dibarto Bom. Go ahead. Go ahead. And that's the source. There, that is how you do it. How do you get the point across? By reading up every single book on education. They help, but that's not you personally. You personally as a mother or as a teacher must have those 3 criteria in order to get the point across to your child. Those are the 3 cardinal principles, because that's the reason why the Rebbeinu Shalom put that pasuk there. It's right after those first 3. Because that's what you need. You can't get the point across if you haven't got Avas Hashem. You'll never get your child to learn a word of Torah if you don't love Torah. It's not on your heart. You'll never be able to teach a child to say brachas unless when you are committed Hashem Echad. You have to have that, what's called, that role model, which might not be excellent. It might be half done, but that doesn't matter at all. The most important thing is that you realize they're critical. And those 3 points are the making of a mechanech. Now, let's have a look at that sentence. The first word, v'shinantom, I don't think really, it's got so much to do with a mother. I don't know if a mother does shinun. Rashi says that the word shinun means accuracy, sharpness. This is osa, this is muta. This is kosher, this is treif. This is chayav, this is potur. I don't know if a mother has to know all those points. That's more for a rebbe, or maybe for a father. I don't know. A mother doesn't have to test the child to know that everything is right. Shinun. The dibarto bom, that's all of a mother's role. Dibarto bom, where? B'shiftecha. They're sitting having their serum in the morning. U'v'kumecha, they get up in the morning. You get them up in the morning. Moide ani. You're driving in the car somewhere with the kids. A good night story. Talking. Dibarto is not shinun. It's a different miktzah altogether. Shinun is a rebbe's role, I'm suggesting. But dibarto bom is just, I suppose we would call it, schmoozing about Hashem. Schmoozing about Torah. Just walking, but having that on your mind as a topic of conversation. I'll give you an example. To my mind, this is the best example I think I've ever heard in getting the point over. There was a great Rosh Yeshiva in Ponevezh years ago called Rav Shmuel Lazovsky. He was once walking with a Talmud down the Chov Rabbi Akiva in Bnei Brak after Pesach. And they noticed as they were walking down the street, in the garden, was a child playing with a ball under a tree. The Rosh Hashiva went over to the child, and the tree had a magnificent canopy of leaves. It's beautiful, just after Pesach, beautiful leaves. And the child was playing under the tree. The Rosh Hashiva went over to the child and said to the child, Tagidli, kama anafim yesh ala eitz hazeh? How many leaves on the tree? Ani lo yodea. Tagid, kama ta choshev? Chamesh alef. כן? אולי 5,000. אמר ראש ישיבה, האם ראית ענפים יותר גדול מזה? Child looked at the tree and says, כן, אני ראיתי ענפים יותר גדול מזה. אולי ראית ענפים יותר leaves smaller? כן. האם כל צבע של כל ענף זה אותו דבר? לא. יש dark green, light green, whatever. He went on like this for a few minutes, just asking the child about the leaves, and then stopped. The child turned round, I think he was 7, 8 years old, so the student said, and said, the child then turned around and said to the Rosh Hashiva, Ta yodea, Rebbe, ani ohev Hashem. Perfect chinuch. Who mentioned Hashem? No one talked about Hashem. That's what it is. It's bringing the child. You don't have to throb him and throttle him with Hashem Echad, but you have it in your mindset when you talk about, I don't know, say to the child the following. He's lying in bed, falling asleep. Say to a 5-year-old, do you remember when it was cold a few months ago? Yeah. It's not as cold as it is now. Now it's much warmer, no? Do you remember when you couldn't speak? Say to a child, are you tired now? When you get up in the morning, are you still as tired? Say to the child when he's lying in bed, do you remember when you were this big? Now you're this big. You don't have to always mention him. It's putting inside the child Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad V'Ahavto. He'll get the point. He sees everything. He's far cleverer than you think he is. He picks up everything. And it's perhaps more indirect than direct. You go out in the morning and you hear a magnificent chorus of birds singing in the morning. So turn around and say to the child, yeah, but where's the conductor? If you take the child to, I don't know, waterfalls, Niagara, say to the child, yeah, you hear the thunder? Yeah, who made the thunder? You talk about him. Child's put something in his mouth. Tasty, no? Why is it so tasty? Who made it so tasty? All these are Hashem Elokeinu, which are fed inside the lifetime of v'dibarto bom v'shivtecha b'veisecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech. The point gets in. Nothing to do with brainwashing. Nothing. It's not. It's just pure educating the child on simple terms of that there's a creator and we have a connection. There's v'ahavto es Hashem Elokecha, and of course Torah and learning Torah, enjoying Torah. That's what it's all about. That's why that pasuk is there, and that's the code. That's lifting the child up on the roof. That's the oxygen mask, which the Alter from Kelm meant. That's everything. When the child has this, you're on the way. The child will stay a Jew and not fall off. When I come from a small town, large city in England, with a very small Jewish community, and I had a friend who I used to learn with him every Shabbos. We used to learn it together. And he was a genius in languages. He spoke, like when he was 16, 15, 16, he spoke about 5 languages: Spanish, German, French, Italian. His parents were Italian. He was an absolutely gifted child in languages. And when he came to 18, he got a scholarship to go to Oxford University as a flying scholarship. That means to say, in England it means you don't pay a penny. They pay you to come. He was a genius in languages. The first semester, first year, when he came home, he said, I haven't got time to learn anymore. The second semester, I know, told me nothing to do with a capital, didn't keep anything at all. Third semester, unfortunately, he got heavily into drugs. I think by the end of the 4th year, he was dead. He had died. Overdose of drugs or something, got caught up into the university union. He went right off. He wasn't given the mask. Didn't get the mask. It's tragedy. This person's so gifted. Don't give them that mask, then they have to have that. First line, second line, third line. 4th line, v'dibarto-bom. I think the mother's role is giving it over. Let's go to the next verse, because that's an important compliment. Of course it means to fill in, but perhaps for a woman there's a little bit more which we can learn. It's not enough just talking about Torah, v'dibarto-bom. Ukeshartom, it has to be done and seen to be done. Done and seen to be done. It's not enough just to talk. There must be actions. Of course it means the mitzvah of tefillin, but it means maisa mitzvahs. Actions have to be done as well, so that the child picks up. This is not just theoretical conversation here. We're talking about a practical way of life. That's tefillin. And of course, where does it all happen? Mezuzah means the home. What do you write? Let's literally translate those words. You and your husband will stand outside the door and write on the doorpost, Shema Yisrael. That's the entrance lobby to your home. You'll take a sofa, he'll write the klaf. But lemaisa it means Emunah, Avas Hashem, Avas HaTorah, Chinuch HaBonim, Maisa mitzvahs are in the home. Everything has to be downloaded right into the home. The home is the place of the real chinuch of the child. Meaning, everything that happens in the home, every aspect of Torah and mitzvahs, all has to be there in the home. Once you have it, then he's on the roof, he's got the oxygen, he's there, he's in the home. The home is everything. Let me give you an example of what I think is really behind the idea of what it really means, Shalom Bayis. Everybody thinks that Shalom Bayis means that the husband and wife agree not to scream at each other, that they agree to smile at each other, that they'll try their hardest to get on well together. Aber ze lo nachon. La'ani daiti, Shalom Bayis has much more depth to it than that. There's a Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Yud Amud Beis. The Gemara asks a question: which names of Hashem are you allowed to say in the bathroom? Can you say in the bathroom Melech? Can you say in the bathroom the name Rachum? B'vaday, you cannot say in the bathroom Yudkei Vovkei, no Elokim, no Elokeinu. But other names, could you say them in the bathroom? Because it's a mokum of Tumah, so not Noki. Could you say that in the bathroom or not? The Gemara comes to the conclusion that every other name you can say, apart from those we've just said. You could say Hamokim, you could say Hamelech, but one word you cannot say. You cannot say in the bathroom the word Shalom. Can't say that name. The child's name is Shalom, you have a problem, but you can't say Shalom in the bathroom. Why not? The Mefarshim explain, the Maharsha explains in the Gemara, for the following reason. Every other quality, like Chesed, Emes, which are all associated with the Almighty, every other quality, when you act with Chesed, it's you acting with Chesed. But the Maharsha says, when you have shalom, peaceful coexistence, you have what's called the Shechina there. Where's the raya? Oiseh shalom b'imraimav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Who? He makes the shalom, not you. You agree to act with peace and tranquility, but the actual material existence of peace is him. Says the Maushal, why? Shalom is his name. Now that's, ladies, a revolutionary thought here. What does it mean, shalom bayis? It means literally, ish ve'isha shchina shuya beinehem. That's what shalom bayis really means. Of course, you agree to get on with each other, but the real depth behind shalom bayis means that you agree to bring the kedusha into the marriage. That's the meaning of shalom bayis. Let me give you an example so that you'll grasp the point. John and Mary. Now, John and Mary, they love each other. They met at a dance. They really get on great together. They have the same interests. They like the same movies. They love the same food. So John decides to marry, live with Mary, and Mary agrees to live with John. They get on very well together. It's called, we hope, a happy twosome, because they get on well together, so long as they get on well together. If not, John will go off and live with Sue, and Mary will go and live with Bill, because there's nothing really binding them, but that's called John and Mary. It's a happy twosome, so long as it lasts. Now take Avram and Sarah. It's not a happy twosome, because as we say, if there's Shechina Shoya B'neihem, it's a holy threesome. It's not a straight line, it's a triangle. And in the middle is the Almighty. And as Avram grows closer to Hashem, he grows closer to Sarah. And Sarah as well with Avram. You go closer to Hashem together. And it's not like this, it's like that. And that's Shalom Bayis. When you bring him into the marriage. Otherwise, of course, it's just Eish, which in English would be called passion. Eish. But there's no Shechina there, just so long as they love each other. That's John and Mary. But Avram and Sarah have a holy threesome. That's the Shechina in the middle. Now that's what we mean when we say, Uchesavtom al mezuzos beisecha. You download the Shechina, Hashem, Echad, Avas Hashem, Avas HaTorah, Chinuch HaBonim, Maisa Mitzvahs in the home. That, La'anias Daiti, is the code of practice for Chinuch HaBonim. You say it with a full heart and try and act on it to the best of your ability in all the connotations that we brought out. I would suggest that's the code which will keep the child on the roof. That's how it's done. But I would like to add, I have 5 minutes left or so, I'd like to add 2 points which I think are critical. The first is the golden thread from Rav Shmuel Greinemann. Everything has to be brought down, from gefilte fish to Shema Yisrael. The second is what you're up against, the tidal wave. And it's definitely there, and you'd be foolish to think that it's not. It's there, and you have to know what you're up against. The answer is putting the child on higher standards. Kedusha, Tznius, Shabbos, all the points we mentioned. And that's all in Shema Yisrael, and that's the code of practice. Emunah, Avas Hashem, Avas HaTorah. Chinuch is bonim, really women is v'divalto in the home, and Maisa Mitzvahs in the home. That's the code. But I'd like to add something which I feel is very important. 2 points. There's only one bracha in the whole of the Shulchan Aruch where we have attached to the bracha a condition of pleasure, of enjoyment. One bracha. Asher kiddushanu v'mitzvayso v'tzivanu la'asoik v'divrei zohar v'harev. No other bracha has that tail end to it. It's an appendix to the bracha. It must be nice. It must be given over in a very delightful way. It has to be pleasant. It has to be with a lot of simcha and a lot of joy. Torah must not be given over like with a wagging finger, because the child will turn around and say, I prefer not. It has to have a ha'arev. David HaMelech davened for that every single time. In Kuf Yotes, Tuv Tam Vodas Lamdeni, Keep a mitzvah Secha Hermonti. It's a tefillah. The Radak, the Ralbag, the Meforshim explain. He asked Hashem that whenever he prayed, he learned, let me have a Tuv Tam. Yeshiva Bochurim, your brothers, will turn around and say, that's called, in yeshiva terminology, a geschmack. You enjoy it. It's geschmack. It's good. I enjoy learning. I enjoy listening to a kasha of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. I enjoy it. That's called a geschmack. That's v'ha'arev, no. A maisa happened to me and my wife when we first got married. I'd like to share it with you, because it says it all. We were first married, first year, Shana Rishona, and I was learning in the Mir. I'm still there in the Mir. And this is what happened. My wife had a cousin who lived in Keren HaYesod, in the Chavya. We went there for a Shabbos, and sitting across the table was, I discovered later, an accountant from Flatbush. He was about 65, sitting across from the table. And he turned around to me in the middle of the meal, and he said to me, very rough, where are you learning? He said it like that. Americans are very rough people, no, aren't they? I married an American, I know what I'm talking about. I said, I'm learning in the Mir. What are you learning? So I said, I'm learning Bob and Six. Tell me what you're learning. And he, I said, well, I don't know why you're talking to me like this. He said, I'll tell you why. He reached over the table and grabbed hold of me. Are you listening to me? I said, I'm listening. Listen to me, he said. I'm a rough guy. He said to me the following. When I was a child, I went to the yeshiva of Rav Yohonoson Apren on the east side. And I had a Rebbe. And that Rebbe did this in this classroom every day. In the middle of learning, he would throw out a kasha of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. This is the kasha of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. And the whole shiur like erupted. And this guy said, this is for, and he said, these arms, and everyone screamed out his, and he listened to everybody. And everybody said, I'm right. And there was a whole scream out in the shiur. The Rebbe then said, now, listen to what Rabbi Akiva Eiger says as an answer. It was absolutely beautiful, because you suddenly realized who Rabbi Akiva Eiger was. That Rebbe, because of that Rebbe, he said, a day never goes by when I don't learn Torah. I had what's called, I think he used the word, gasoline for life, because it was super. It was mamash fire. Tuv tam dodas lamdeni. He was blessed. He had a wonderful Rebbe. And he said to me, the last words were great. He turned and said to me, now you learn the kashas of Rabbi Akiva Eiger. And if you do, you'll be great in Torah, just like me. He said, oh, the man was alive. He was alive. He was privileged to receive a geschmack in Torah. Another Maisa, which happened on the Teal. We went to the Golan, my wife and I. I have to show you the other side, because you might not get the point clearly. We stopped off in Tzfas, and we walked into a store. And as soon as we walked into the store, a guy with long payas and colored tzitzis, big couple on his head. As I walked in the door, he said to me, Adani, ata ra'ita את המזוזה שלי על הדלת? זה ממש קשה מאוד. אמרתי, מהודה. אתה יכול לאכול בבית שלי. אני שומר שבת. And he was nice, he was obviously about tshuva, and he was telling me all the things which he did. מאוד יפה, מאוד יפה. So I'm standing there with my wife, but being a cynical Englishman, I was listening to him. And after he finished, I turned and said, אבל כבודו, לא אמרת דבר אחד. I still remember the look at his face. אמרתי, אבל אתה לא אמרת שאתה לומד תורה. His face fell. לא, אני לא לומד תורה. לא. אמרתי, למה? לא, אני לא לומד תורה. אל תדבר איתי. למה? You can cry over this answer. האוזן שלי עדיין קורב לי מאוד מבבא קמא. He was brought up in a cheder where he got beaten up if he never said the right pshat. Every time he got something wrong, he got beaten up. He went to India for years, ran away. Someone found him there, Arachim, and brought him back. אני חזרתי בתשובה, אבל אני פותח את הגמרא, אני רועד. I feel it. I could cry. That leather killed this child. No geschmack. No geschmack. A mother gives geschmack. A mother gives that a father, of course. I have a friend who asked Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach the following question. Wonderful question. He asked Reb Shlomo Zalman, the Mishnah says, Ben Chomesh leMikra, Ben Shmoyle leMishnah, Ben Achad Esrei leGemara. He asked Reb Shlomo Zalman, what do you do before 5? Said Reb Shlomo Zalman, you don't know? Before 5, you sing the whole time and make the child happy. Just sing. V'harevna. That's Koisoy Mala Beis Yaakov. That's later, of course, it gets into the Geschmack of Torah. But it has to have this Tov Tam Vodas. That unfortunate Baal Tshuva in Sfas was finished from Torah. And that accountant from Flatbush was energized for life. It's all the Harev. No other mitzvah has that. No other has this Harev. No. It has to be delightful. Last point, which I'd like to bring out, is the koyach of tefillah. Meaning, you can have the golden thread, you can be aware of the tidal wave, you can be fully conscious of Shema Yisrael and give it over in a beautiful way. And I suppose you could even have all the joy and the love of Torah. But, as we know, ladies, kol davar oimed lifnei atfilah. Koyach hatfilah. Where do we learn that from? Perhaps we learn it from the mother of all tefillah, and that's Chana. Gemara in Brachos Daf Lamed Beis learns out that all the asaidos of tefillah we learn from Chana, quietly, all the points that we learn. But as you know, Shmuel was Chayev Misa. He was Meira Halacha Bifnei Eiri. It's a different point, but he was actually Chayev Misa. And Eli turned around and said to Chana, I'm afraid this child will have to go. We'll ask for another one. And here are the beautiful words of Chana. No way. El Hana Hazeh Hispalalti. This is the child I davened for. What did she mean? She meant like this. I don't want another child. This child is saturated with my prayer. Now you give me another child, he might be talented, he might be wonderful, but he didn't come to me from my prayer. So, Elanar Hazeh, this is the child I prayed for. We learn from that however gifted a child might be, and whatever teachers you have, and whatever your chocolate cake is like on Shabbos, and all the wonderful things, and however wonderful your husband might be as a machanech and all these things, aber Sefer Shel Dover, the koyach of tefillah, is to ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, let this child, and that's the whole point of by the Neiros, you daven for your success of your child. The koyach of tefillah is everything. With these, perhaps, bare outline of some of the points, perhaps then, and only then, will we be zoicha to see Uleivonim levonecha Shalom al Yisrael.
Girls, we're going to have a break now for 15